Good morning, beloved friends. Each new day is a divine gift, a blank page written by the hand of God Himself. Every sunrise carries fresh mercy, fresh strength, and new opportunities to walk in purpose. But how we begin our day determines the direction of everything that follows. That is why I say to you today, each morning you open your eyes, you are receiving a sacred invitation from God Himself, an opportunity to begin again, to start fresh, to draw near to Him before anything else claims your attention. Morning is not just the start of another day. It is the most important spiritual moment of your life. It is the moment when your soul decides which voice it will follow, the noise of the world or the whisper of heaven. That is why it is so important to always start your day with powerful morning prayers for protection and life change. Because prayer at dawn is not a small thing, it is the anchor of your destiny, the seed of your peace, and the pathway to divine favor. When you rise in the morning and begin your day with prayer, you are not simply speaking words into the air. You are opening the gates of heaven over your life. You are acknowledging that before you do anything, before you plan, before you decide, before you act, there is one who must lead, God Almighty. Prayer at the beginning of the day is an act of surrender, a declaration that says, Lord, this day belongs to you. I cannot walk it in my own strength. I need your hand to guide me, your spirit to fill me, and your angels to protect me. That simple act of surrender changes everything. It transforms an ordinary day into a divinely orchestrated one. You see, the world teaches us to start our day with noise, to rush into messages, schedules, and responsibilities. But heaven teaches us to start with stillness. God speaks most clearly in the quiet moments when the world has not yet begun to shout. That is why Jesus often withdrew early in the morning to pray. Even when crowds demanded His attention, He first sought the Father's presence. He knew that strength, clarity, and peace are not found in activity, but in intimacy with God. When we follow His example, our mornings stop being chaotic and become sacred. When you pray in the morning, you are also building spiritual protection around yourself. Each day carries unseen challenges, and while you cannot always control what happens, you can prepare your spirit for it. Prayer is your armor. It shields your mind from fear, your heart from discouragement, and your path from destruction. When you call on God's name early, His angels go before you to guard your steps. Every battle you will face that day becomes lighter because heaven has already gone ahead of you. The enemy fears a person who starts their day in prayer. He knows that the moment you begin to call upon God, every plan of darkness begins to crumble. Morning prayer also transforms your perspective. Life can often feel heavy, full of noise, confusion, and uncertainty. But when you take time to speak with God first, your heart becomes steady. Prayer lifts your eyes above your problems and fixes them on the promises of God. It reminds you that you are not alone, that no matter what the day holds, God holds you. Through prayer, you find peace that surpasses understanding, and you begin to move through the day not with anxiety, but with assurance that your steps are guided by a divine hand. One of the most beautiful things about starting your day in prayer is how it renews your relationship with God. Prayer is not just a list of requests, it is a conversation, a relationship built in moments of honesty and faith. When you talk to God each morning, you are building intimacy with your Creator. You are opening your heart to His voice, His wisdom, and His comfort. Over time, you will begin to notice that your thoughts are calmer, your reactions are softer, and your words are kinder. Not because life has become easier, but because your spirit has become stronger. Prayer reshapes your character. It makes you more patient, more loving, and more aware of God's presence throughout your day. Many people say they do not have time to pray in the morning. But the truth is, we do not have time not to pray. Every minute spent in prayer saves hours of frustration and confusion later. Prayer gives you clarity and direction. It helps you make wise decisions and avoid unnecessary mistakes. A few quiet moments with God before the day begins can transform everything that follows. Even a short, sincere prayer can shift the entire atmosphere of your life. When you begin to pray each morning, start with gratitude. Thank God for the gift of a new day, for breath in your lungs, for the roof over your head, for the people you love, and for the unseen protection that surrounds you. Gratitude is the key that unlocks joy. The more you thank God for what you have, the more peace fills your heart. After gratitude, surrender your plans to Him. Say, Lord, guide my steps today. Let my words bring life. Let my actions honor you. Protect me from harm and keep me close to your will. Then take a few moments to listen. Prayer is not only speaking, it is also hearing. God will whisper direction, correction, and encouragement into your heart when you learn to be still in His presence. Throughout history, men and women of great faith have made morning prayer their secret strength. Dr. David Yonggi Cho, one of the greatest pastors of our time, often spoke of the power of early prayer. He said that the morning is when heaven listens most closely, when the world is still and the voice of the Spirit is clearest. He would rise before dawn, spending time in deep communion with God. And from that intimacy came wisdom, power, and peace that changed the lives of millions. He understood that prayer was not an option. It was oxygen for the soul. Beloved, the way you start your day determines how you finish it. If you begin in worry, the day will multiply your stress. But if you begin in prayer, the day will multiply your strength. The first hour of your morning is the foundation for the next 23. Build it with prayer, and you will stand firm no matter what comes. Every time you pray, you invite divine favor to cover your life like a shield. You may not see immediate results, but over time, prayer will rewrite the story of your life. You will find yourself walking in more peace, experiencing more breakthroughs, and living with more purpose than ever before. So tomorrow morning, when you open your eyes, do not rush to the Word. Rush to God. Whisper a prayer before your feet touch the ground. Tell Him, Lord, thank you for this day. I give it to you completely. Protect me, guide me, and transform me. That small act will open the windows of heaven over your day. As you make this your daily practice, you will see that God's presence goes before you everywhere you go. You will no longer walk in fear because you know that the one who created the day is walking beside you. Every morning is a divine appointment. It is God's way of giving you another opportunity to begin again, to rise with new mercy, and to walk in His purpose. Each sunrise whispers, you've been given another chance. But what you do in those first quiet moments matters. more than anything else you'll do all day. That is why you must always start your day with powerful morning prayers. Prayers that invite God's protection and ignite true life change. Because when you give God your first moments, He blesses every moment that follows. Morning prayer is more than a spiritual duty. It's a declaration of dependence on God. It's saying, Lord, I can't face this day on my own. I need your strength, your wisdom, and your peace. Prayer in the morning shifts the atmosphere. It turns anxiety into assurance, confusion into clarity, and weariness into worship. You cannot control what the day brings, but through prayer, you can control how you respond. Prayer prepares your heart before life tests it. When you pray at dawn, something powerful happens in the unseen. Heaven begins to move on your behalf. Angels are assigned, doors begin to open, paths become straight. The presence of God surrounds you before your feet even touch the ground. That is why the morning is so sacred. It is the moment when your spirit connects with the source of life before the noise of the world begins. Too often, we wake up and rush into our routines. We check our phones, worry about the day ahead, and fill our minds with thoughts that rob us of peace. But when you start with prayer, you slow down enough to remember who you are, and whose you are. You invite the Holy Spirit to fill you before fear does. You let God set the rhythm for your day instead of being dragged by the pace of the world. Morning prayer is a reset for the soul, a chance to start from a place of peace rather than pressure. There is something deeply powerful about giving God the first conversation of your day. Before you speak to anyone else, speak to Him. Thank Him for the gift of breath, for another sunrise, for the chance to love, to grow, and to make a difference. Gratitude in the morning awakens joy. It shifts your focus from what you lack to all that you have been given. When you begin your morning with thanksgiving, your heart opens to God's presence, and His favor begins to flow. And as you pray, ask for His divine protection. The world is full of unseen dangers, not just physical, but emotional and spiritual as well. Fear, doubt, and temptation try to steal your peace before the day even begins. But prayer is your shield. When you pray, Lord, surround me with your angels. Heaven takes position. The same God who shut the mouths of lions for Daniel and calmed the storm for His disciples can protect you from every force that seeks to harm you. When you start the day covered in prayer, you walk with the confidence that no weapon formed against you shall prosper. But prayer does not only protect you, it transforms you. Morning prayer changes your life because it changes your heart. Every time you meet with God, He molds you a little more into His image. He softens the hard places in your heart, strengthens your faith, and renews your purpose. Prayer makes you aware of His voice during the day, in decisions, in challenges, and in moments of silence. It aligns your steps with His will, so that even when things seem uncertain, your heart remains steady. The great men and women of faith all had this one secret. They met God early. They knew that the strength for the day is found in the stillness of the morning. The prophet David said, "In the morning I will direct my prayer unto thee and will look up." That is the posture of a heart in trust, looking up before looking around, seeking heaven before seeking answers from the world. So if you truly desire life change, Begin each day in prayer. It doesn't have to be long or complicated. Just a few honest moments with God can transform the direction of your entire day. Whisper, Lord, I surrender this day to you. Protect me, guide me, and let me be a vessel of your love. That single prayer can shift the spiritual atmosphere around you. Every morning carries a sacred invitation from heaven. A whisper that says, begin again. No matter what happened yesterday, no matter the struggles you faced or the mistakes you made, God's mercy is new every morning. Each sunrise is a divine message that grace still reigns, hope is still alive, and your story is not over. But to step into that new grace, you must begin your day in the presence of the one who gives it. That is why it is so important to always start your day with powerful morning prayers. Prayers that bring protection to your path and transformation to your heart. When you rise from your bed and the light begins to touch the world, the first thing your soul should do is reach for God. Before you check your phone, before you worry about what lies ahead, pause and speak to your Creator. The first moments of your day are like the first drops of rain on dry soil. What you sow there will shape everything that follows. If you fill those moments with prayer, gratitude, and faith, your entire day will be built upon peace and strength. Prayer is not only communication, it is connection. It is the bridge that links the weakness of humanity with the power of divinity. When you begin your day in prayer, you invite God's presence into every decision, every step, and every encounter. You no longer walk alone, you walk with heaven beside you. That is why prayer is not an option, it is a necessity. Without prayer, the day can control you. With prayer, you take control through faith. The truth is, the world is full of noise and distraction. From the moment you wake up, life begins to demand your attention. Problems, responsibilities, decisions, and expectations. But prayer silences that noise. It brings your mind into focus and your spirit into alignment with God's will. Morning prayer is like tuning an instrument before the music begins. If you skip it, everything else will sound off. But when you pray, your spirit becomes in tune with God's rhythm, and everything in your day begins to flow with grace. Prayer also builds a wall of protection around your life. You may not see the spiritual battles that surround you, but they are real. Fear, temptation, discouragement, and negativity try to invade your peace before the day even begins. But when you rise in prayer, you rise in authority. You remind the forces of darkness that you belong to God and that no weapon formed against you will prosper. Morning prayer covers your family, your work, your mind, and your future with divine security. It calls upon the name of the Lord, who promises to be your refuge and fortress. But beyond protection, prayer also changes the one who prays. Morning prayer is a place of transformation. When you come before God each morning, you open your heart to His shaping hand. You allow Him to renew your thoughts, purify your motives, and strengthen your spirit. Each time you pray, you become a little more patient, a little more forgiving, and a little more like Christ. The power of prayer is not only in what it changes around you, but in what it changes within you. There will be days when you wake up tired, discouraged, or afraid. But those are the mornings when prayer matters most. Because prayer in weakness brings strength. Prayer in fear brings courage, and prayer in uncertainty brings peace. When you lift your voice to heaven, even in silence or tears, God listens. He does not require perfect words. He desires a willing heart. He delights in the sound of your voice and meets you in that secret place where faith begins to rise again. Some of the greatest miracles in life begin with morning prayers whispered in faith. A few minutes in God's presence can redirect an entire destiny. Dr. David Yonggi so often said that when you start your day in prayer, you give God the steering wheel of your life. He takes control of every detail and things begin to fall into place. Not by chance, but by divine design. You may face challenges, but you will face them with peace. You may encounter storms, but you will stand unshaken because you met the master of the storm in the morning. So as each new day begins, make a sacred decision. Before anything else, pray. Thank God for His mercy. Ask Him to lead you and invite Him to walk beside you. Let your mornings be filled with worship, not worry. Let prayer be your first breath, not your last resort. Because when you begin your day in the presence of God, you begin it in power. Every day begins with a choice between rushing into the noise of life or resting first in the presence of God. Each morning is not simply the start of another 24 hours. It is a divine invitation to connect, to listen, and to align yourself with heaven. God gives you a brand new sunrise, not only to see light, but to receive light. His wisdom, His peace, His direction. And when you choose to begin your day in prayer, you are saying, Lord, I trust you more than I trust the world. I depend on your guidance more than my own understanding. This is why starting your day with powerful morning prayers for protection and life change is one of the greatest habits you can ever build. The first moments of your morning hold incredible spiritual power. They set the tone for your mind, your mood, and your momentum. When you wake up and immediately turn your heart to God, you are choosing peace before pressure, faith before fear, and purpose before panic. Life is full of distractions and the world moves fast. But prayer slows you down long enough to hear the voice that truly matters. The voice of your Creator. It is in those quiet, early moments that you discover strength, clarity, and courage to face whatever the day may hold. Prayer in the morning is like planting seeds before the sun rises. What you sow in those first sacred minutes will bear fruit throughout the day. When you sow gratitude, you will reap joy. When you sow surrender, you will reap peace. When you sow faith, you will reap miracles. Every prayer you whisper, no matter how small, becomes a seed that heaven waters with grace. And over time, those small moments of morning prayer grow into a powerful relationship with God that transforms your life from the inside out. When you begin your day with prayer, you are inviting divine protection into your life. The world is full of unseen dangers, not just physical harm, but spiritual and emotional battles that seek to steal your peace. But when you pray, Lord, cover me with your protection, something invisible yet mighty begins to surround you. The angels of God take their positions. The Spirit of God begins to lead you away from harm. Prayer is your spiritual armor. It guards your mind against fear, your heart against discouragement, and your path against confusion. The Bible says in Psalm 91, he who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. The secret place is that moment in prayer, that sacred time when you meet God before the world meets you. There, in that space, He hides you, shields you, and strengthens you for what lies ahead. Prayer also changes the posture of your heart. When you start your day with prayer, you begin with humility instead of pride, with dependence instead of control. You remind yourself that you are not the master of the day. God is. You let go of your need to plan every detail and instead invite His will to unfold. This surrender does not make you weak. It makes you unshakable. Because when God is in control, you no longer have to fear the unknown. You begin to see that even when things don't go as planned, they are still working for your good because His hand is guiding them. One of the most beautiful gifts of morning prayer is peace. The world will give you endless reasons to worry, but prayer reminds you that peace is not found in the absence of problems. It is found in the presence of God. When you take time to pray in the morning, you are choosing to be still even when life is busy. You are saying, God, I will rest in you before I rush into the world. And that peace follows you through conversations, through challenges, through decisions. Because you have built your foundation on faith, not fear. Every sunrise is a sacred opportunity to begin again, to leave behind the weight of yesterday and step into the freshness of God's mercy. The Bible tells us that His mercies are new every morning, which means that every dawn carries a divine promise of renewal. When you open your eyes and choose to begin your day with prayer, you are stepping into that promise. You are allowing God to breathe new strength into your soul and to prepare you for what lies ahead. Morning prayer is more than a ritual. It's an act of surrender, a daily declaration that your life belongs to Him. There is something profoundly powerful about the first few minutes after you wake up. They are quiet, unshaped, and sacred. What you do with those moments determines the rhythm of your entire day. When you start your morning scrolling through your phone, your spirit becomes scattered. But when you start it by talking to God, your spirit becomes centered. Prayer invites calm into chaos and focus into confusion. It reminds you that before the world speaks, you must listen to heaven. Before you face people, you must first face your Creator. Each morning, when you lift your voice in prayer, you open the door for divine protection. You invite God to cover you and those you love under the shadow of His wings. There are challenges waiting in the world, unseen dangers, unexpected pressures, spiritual battles. But when you pray, Lord, walk before me, He does. He becomes your shield in the unseen realm, your light in dark places, and your wisdom when you do not know what to do. The power of prayer is not just that God changes circumstances, but that He changes you in the midst of them. When you pray, your fears grow smaller and your faith grows stronger. Prayer also transforms your attitude. It's difficult to carry bitterness, anxiety, or fear when your heart is turned toward God. A morning spent in prayer realigns your perspective. Instead of asking, what will today bring? You begin to declare, whatever today brings, I will walk through it with God. That shift turns every situation, even difficult ones, into opportunities for grace. It helps you recognize blessings where others see burdens and lessons where others see loss. Prayer renews your spiritual vision so that you begin to see not just what is happening, but what God is doing through it. There is peace in prayer that nothing else can give. The world often promises peace through success, money, or control. But those things fade. True peace is not found in the absence of problems. It is found in the presence of God. When you spend time with Him each morning, your heart begins to rest in His promises. You realize that you are not walking through the day alone. Every step, every breath, every challenge is guided by a hand that never fails. That realization allows you to move through life with quiet confidence, knowing that no matter what happens, you are held by divine love. Many great men and women of faith, from prophets to modern spiritual leaders like Dr. David Yonggi Cho, understood this truth. They made prayer their first priority, not their last resort. Dr. Cho often spoke about meeting God in the morning before meeting anyone else, because he knew that the power to lead, to love, and to live with purpose comes from intimacy with God. His mornings were not about asking for things, but about receiving guidance, strength, and peace to face the day. The same is available to you. You do not have to be a preacher or a leader to experience that power. You only need a willing heart. So, as the sun rises tomorrow, let your first thoughts be filled with gratitude. Thank God for life, for breath, for another chance to make things right. Ask Him to protect your family, to guide your decisions, and to fill you with wisdom and compassion. Speak words of faith over your day. I am covered. I am guided. I am walking in divine favor. And then step out knowing that heaven has already gone before you. In conclusion, morning prayer is not simply a spiritual discipline. It is a lifeline. It connects you to the source of strength, peace, and protection that no human effort can produce. When you start your day with God, you invite light into every dark place and peace into every storm. You carry His presence into your workplace, your home, and your relationships. Your day may not always be perfect, but your spirit will remain unshaken because it rests on divine foundation. So never underestimate the power of those first few minutes with God. They are where battles are won, where fears are calmed, and where transformation begins. Start your mornings with prayer, and you will start living with purpose, power, and protection that no force on earth can take away.